بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا مولانا محمد وآله وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. Meta. Yesterday we looked at Descartes' conception of meta, and this is a general entry, but I think mostly talking about Aristotle. So meta is from the Greek ule, which means wood. That's what meta literally means. The Greek word for meta means. I think in Islamic philosophy, hayula come from this word. So Aristotle considered matter and form to be relative terms, meaning for some subject, for one subject, for example, matter can be relative to one category or one subject or one particular thing. Matter can be something and form can be another thing, and then that can become matter for something else, for example. So it's a relative term. But Aristotle also have a concept of primary matter, which is the matter, I guess, devoid of form. But that's an abstraction, because in reality, or in outside world, outside human mind, I guess, matter always exists with a form. But if we abstract all form from a matter, then we'll get a prime matter. That's the basic stuff. So Aristotle considered matter form to be relative terms, with matter as the material of a thing. The matter is what is the material of a thing, the basic stuff, as opposed to form as a structure. So for example, matter of a chair is wood, but the way it is formed is its form. The way it is made is its form. Matter is a factor within the category of substance, but is not a primary substance. So we'll just leave that for a minute. Substance is something which exists on its own. There's a whole debate about what is substances in Aristotle. But at the moment, we just want to understand what matter is. Matter and form together are the two major components of reality. So matter as a subject or substratum of change can accept contraries and so make change possible. In Greek philosophy, and obviously in Aristotle as well, problem of change is very important. How to explain change. Heraclitus said that everything is in perpetual motion, perpetual change. On the other hand, Parmenides was a huge influence on Plato, said that everything is stationary and change is just an illusion. And Plato, obviously, this is very crude and very basic. Um, but just to give you or myself an idea, Plato tried to combine this, try to explain change and rest or change, and in order to do that, he sort of posited two worlds: the world of ideas, where everything is stationary, and the world, material world, where there is a change. Um, and through their interaction, we get change and motion. Aristotle tried to explain the same phenomenon, but in a more this worldly fashion, without positing a transcendent world beyond this world. An important thing is, in order to explain change, there must be something which doesn't change. That's the basic idea. Because if everything changed, then you can't explain change. Because I guess change is relative to what can be understood only relative to what is not changing. So that's a very important thing in. So there's a motion, there's a change. We can't deny that. Even Parmenides and his disciples like Plato and Zeno, they couldn't deny that. They would have to say that motion is just apparent. It's not real. But it's there. So in order to explain change, you need to posit something which doesn't change. And in a sense, for Aristotle, matter is that which doesn't change. So remain the same is a substratum. It doesn't change while the thing as a whole change vis-a-vis space or in its so generation, destruction. All these are changes, and transformation, metamorphosis. These are changes. So there's something which doesn't change, and there's something which change relative to that thing which doesn't change. And that substratum, it doesn't change, is basically a primary matter or matter. So matter as a substratum of something which change can accept contraries as to make change possible. So same substratum can take two different forms, for example, which can't exist at the same time. But it's capable of those. So a wood can be square as well as a triangle, for example. The square and triangle cannot exist at the same time. So that there are contraries to that extent, but the same matter can, not at the same time obviously, but can take the form of square as well as can take the form of a triangle. That's what he's saying. So at the beginning of the change, there are remote matter-like elements, which would be prime matter. That's what, and it's an abstraction in the sense that because whenever you look in the external world, matter is always comes with a form, but we can imagine a matter which doesn't have any form. So that basically provides the substratum. So at the beginning of change, there are remote matter-like elements which would be prime matter in a general discussion of change. At the end of generation, there is a proximate matter, which is the matter appropriate to the product. So you can think of, for example, wood in a relative term in the tree. So you cut it. So maybe that's a prime matter in a sense. So you chisel it, whatever, and then it becomes a chair, for example. So the wood is still a matter, but that's so in a relative term, the matter as related to the wood still as a stem or as a branch of a tree, that's proximate matter, but the same um, wood cut from the tree, draw it, chisel, and now it's chair. So that's the proximate matter at that point as relative to a chair, for example. And all substances are product of a material substance, composite of matter and form. So matter is the material of that thing and form is the structure of that thing. So the matter of a chair is its wood and its form is, the fact that it is four-legged and it has some flat surface and probably it has other elements which can support the sitting, or the function of sitting, for example. So matter is usually, but not always, associated with potentiality. But that's another concept in Aristotle. So matter is primary matter, secondary matter, material. And then form is the structure which this matter is capable of taking. And in order to explain this capability, Aristotle comes up with two other concepts: potentiality, or actuality. So in that sense, matter is potentiality in the sense that it has potential to become, for example, chair or a table. And chair and table are actualities. So wood has a potential to become a chair, it has potential to become table. But wood probably doesn't have a potential to become it doesn't have potential to become and some other things, for example. Don't know what. So for example, wood doesn't have a potential to become a pan of steel, for example, or a hammer of steel. But it does have a potential to become hammer, a wooden hammer, for example. Yeah. Aristotle also occasionally mentioned spatial extension as intelligible matter. So extension, intelligible matter, in the sense that without that extension, we won't be able to grasp a matter. So prime matter in that sense is an abstraction. So it's a bit different from bit different from Descartes, for whom matter is, as we saw yesterday, pure extension. Extension. So matter is extension. On the other hand, for Aristotle, uh, at the secondary level, matter is extension. That's how it's become intelligible. But at the primary level, matter is just pure potentiality. But we can argue that that pure potentiality must have some sort of extension as well. But what defines for Aristotle matter is not that it has extension, but that it has potentiality. The characteristics of Aristotle's notion of matter were retained in the later. So later developments are development of Aristotle. So some of the things might be rejected by later philosophers, but they are not totally rejected. For example, in Descartes. In the 17th and 18th century, matter was thought to be something of a spatio-temporal location and to have the properties of extension and movability. And these are present in Aristotle, but not in the same way as Descartes called it extended substance in contrast to mind or soul as thinking substance. This led to the problem raised by matter-mind dualism. In modern science, matter is characterized in terms of mass and extension, and is distinct from energy on the grounds that each has its own law of conservation. This distinction no longer holds in contemporary metaphysics. It was in 17th and 18th century metaphysics, but in, for example, quantum mechanics, it becomes very hard to differentiate between, and obviously Einstein's formula. But at the quantum level, it becomes very hard to consider. I mean, although arguably it doesn't, even at quantum level, extension is still there. The distinction between this no longer holds in matter is now merely a subject for the philosophy of physics. For my this is Aristotle. For my definition in physics, for my definition, matter is just this: the primary substrate of each thing, from which it comes to be without qualification, and which persists in the result. So that which doesn't change in a material thing is its matter during all the change. But can you see that thing which never changes and but is present in beneath all the change? Arguably not. You can think about it, but you can't see it because everything you see is already changed in that sense. Okay, I think that was pretty good. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك وصلى وسلم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في غزة، اللهم فرج عنهم ونفس كربنا وكربنا ثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم انصر أولياءك في كل مكان وصلى وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى وصحبه وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.